If I'd known my night would end with $1,000 bill and a mafia boss calling me pretty boy, I'd have stayed home in sweatpants. But there I was, dressed too nicely, heart pounding, sitting on the top floor of the fanciest rooftop restaurant in the city. The kind of place where the waiters whisper, "The wine costs more than my rent," and everyone smells faintly of money and superiority. I checked my reflection in the window for the 5th time. Hair, fine. Shirt, not wrinkled. Smile, hopefully not desperate. "Relax, Noah," I muttered to myself, fidgeting with the napkin. "It's just a date." Normal people do this, except I wasn't a normal person. I hadn't been on a proper date in almost 2 years. My friend said I needed to get out there, that love wouldn't just fall from the sky. So they set me up with Ryan. Funny, confident, and, according to his profile picture, devastatingly hot. We texted for a week. He seemed sweet, a little flirty, the kind of guy who might actually like me. When he walked in, wearing a dark blue shirt that made his eyes look unfairly good, I thought maybe, just maybe, my luck was changing. He was charming. Told stories about his travels, his job, and his dog that apparently ate Gucci shoes. We laughed, genuinely laughed, and I felt that rare spark I hadn't felt in forever. Halfway through dinner, he smiled, leaned close, and said, "Excuse me, I just need to take a quick call. Don't eat all the dessert before I'm back." I smiled. He smiled. He walked away. And never came back. 10 minutes passed, then 20, then 40. My stomach dropped with every minute that ticked by. I called his number. Straight to voicemail. Texted. No reply. That warm flutter in my chest curdled into nausea. The waiter approached with a tight smile. "Would you like me to bring the check now, sir?" Yeah, sure." My voice wobbled. I think my date just, ran to the restroom. He returned with a slim folder, setting it down gently like it might explode. I flipped it open and froze. $1,047.63. For a second, I genuinely thought it was a typo. My throat closed up. "I think there's a mistake," I said, forcing a shaky laugh. "He ordered the wine, not me." I just... The waiter's tone turned firm. "I'm sorry, sir. The reservation was under your name." My heart started racing. My palms went cold. I reached for my card, swiped it, declined, tried again, declined. People were watching now. Whispers. The heat crept up my neck. "Sir, if you're unable to pay, we'll have to contact security," the waiter said quietly, but his eyes were already signaling someone near the door. Panic clawed up my throat. "Please, just give me a second. I can call someone. Then, before I could finish, a voice cut through the chaos like a blade. "I've got it." Low, calm, confident. I turned, and for a moment I forgot how to breathe. He stood there like he'd stepped out of a movie. Tall, broad, dark hair brushing his shoulders. A perfectly tailored black suit that screamed danger and money. His gaze met mine. Sharp, green, unsettling. Before he slid a sleek black card across the table with a lazy flick of his wrist. "Put it on this," he said to the waiter. The man nodded so fast it was almost a ball, hurrying away. I sat frozen, pulse thundering, trying to make sense of what just happened. Then the stranger stepped closer, his cologne sharp and warm at once. Leather, smoke, something addictive. He leaned down just enough for his voice to brush my ear. "You owe me now, pretty boy." My breath caught. His words weren't loud, but they hit harder than the panic still clawing at me. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know what he wanted. All I knew was this. My disastrous date had just turned into something far more dangerous than heartbreak. A little while later. The restaurant emptied out slowly after the chaos, but my pulse still hadn't settled. I stood there, clutching my jacket, trying to process what just happened. How a complete stranger had saved me from public humiliation and a police report. I turned to him, the mysterious man with the black card and the calmest eyes I'd ever seen. Hey, thank you. Really, that was... I don't even know how to... He didn't answer right away. Just looked at me with that unreadable half smirk, then slid his hands into his pockets. You planning to stand here all night? Oh, no, I stammered, embarrassed. I'll get out of your way. I'll figure out how to pay you back, I swear. Just, thank you again. I started toward the elevator. But before I could take 2 steps, a voice behind me said, "Not so fast." 2 men in dark suits appeared near the exit. Tall, expressionless, definitely not waiters. One of them tilted his head slightly. The boss would like. A word, my stomach dropped. The boss? They didn't answer, just gestured toward the parking area. I turned back to the man. The boss, apparently. And he was already moving, cool and unhurried, as if the entire restaurant now belonged to him. Which, honestly, it kind of felt like it did. I followed them out into the cool night air. The city lights glittered below the rooftop, cars moving like fireflies. A sleek black car waited at the curb, the kind that looked both expensive and bulletproof. I don't understand, I said, voice shaking. I thought... Michael, I'd later learn his name, opened the door with a faint smile. Relax. I'm not going to hurt you. Then what do you want? His smile widened, slow and deliberate. A conversation. The ride was silent except for the soft hum of the engine. I sat stiffly, watching neon lights flicker past, trying not to freak out. When the elevator doors opened at the top floor of a high-rise, I realized where we were. His penthouse. I'd never been inside a place that quiet. Michael DeLuca's penthouse wasn't just expensive. It was intimidatingly expensive. The kind of space where even sound thinks twice before entering. Everything gleamed. Marble floors that reflected the city lights. Minimalist furniture in blacks and silvers. And windows that stretched from floor to ceiling to sky overlooking a skyline that didn't feel real. And he didn't sit. Didn't even bother pretending this was a negotiation. He stood by the glass wall, suit jacket draped over one arm, a glass of something dark and expensive in the other. The city glowed beneath him like it belonged to him. Sit, he said, without looking at me. I obeyed, because somehow not obeying felt like a bad idea. The chair was soft, but my back stayed rigid. My hands were clenched in my lap, and I could still feel the humiliation from earlier. The stares, the whispers, the way the waiter had crossed his arms when my card declined. Michael finally turned. God. His eyes, dark, sharp, and unreadable. A faint scar ran from the corner of his lip to his jaw, subtle enough to make you curious about the story behind it. So, he said, voice calm, smooth. Let's talk about how you're going to repay me. I swallowed hard. I can get the money. Just give me a few days. He raised an eyebrow, amused. You think $1,000 is what I care about? That tone, almost playful but not really. It made my stomach twist. Then why? He walked toward me, each step slow and deliberate. The faint click of his shoes against marble sounded like a countdown. When he stopped in front of me, I could smell his cologne. Expensive. Smoky. Dangerous. He placed a thin black folder on the table between us and flipped it open. My name. My address. Photos. The restaurant. Me sitting there, the waiter arguing with me. A news clipping with his name splashed across it. Michael DeLuca, son of the late Antonio DeLuca, rumored to take over the family business. I felt my chest tighten. You had someone follow me? Don't flatter yourself, he said mildly. You caused a scene. Someone recognized me. I don't like my name in headlines, not unless I control them. He tapped the file. Which brings us here. He sat opposite me, leaning forward just enough for me to feel the shift in power. You're going to help me, and in return, you'll walk away debt-free. I hesitated. Help you? How? His smirk deepened, like he'd been waiting for that question. By pretending to be my boyfriend. My brain stalled. I'm sorry? It's temporary, he continued, completely unbothered by my disbelief. My family's old-fashioned. Investors, too. They don't like rumors. You play the part, attend a few events, smile for the cameras, and make it look real. And if I say no, he shrugged, swirling his drink lazily. Then you'll find out what happens when you waste my time. I looked at him, at the calmness, the control, the faint hint of warning beneath every word, and realized saying no was not really an option. Still, something in me refused to bow completely. You're seriously threatening me over bad press? Not threatening, he said, standing. Making an offer. He walked around me, close enough for the hairs on my neck to rise. And between us, pretty boy, you'd be doing both of us a favor. I get to shut down the gossip. You get to learn how to survive in my world. I hated how his voice wrapped around me, low and dangerous and steady. I also hated that a part of me, the reckless, stupid part, was curious. When I finally muttered, "Fine," his lips curved into a satisfied smile. Good choice. And then, softer, almost like a promise, or a threat. Welcome to my life, Noah. 2 days later. If Scene 1 felt like a deal with the devil, Scene 2 felt like walking straight into his kingdom. Our first public appearance came 2 nights later. A charity auction at the Ritz-Carlton. Michael picked me up in a black car that looked like it could outrun the police. He didn't say much, just glanced at me once when I slid in beside him, eyes tracing the ill-fitting suit I'd borrowed from a friend. His mouth twitched. You clean up better than I expected. Thanks, I think. He smirked but said nothing more. The silence stretched, thick with the kind of tension I couldn't name. Outside, the city lights blurred past, like I was being ferried somewhere far beyond my league. When we stepped out, the flash of cameras hit like gunfire. Reporters shouted his name. Michael! Over here! Who's your date? He didn't flinch, didn't even blink. He just reached for my hand, firm, grounding, and guided me through the chaos like it was nothing. Inside, the ballroom glittered, chandeliers dripping crystal, champagne glasses clinking, a live quartet playing something elegant and far too slow for my heartbeat. People greeted him like royalty. Michael, darling, so sorry about your father's estate. Is this the lucky man? Each smile he gave was practiced. Charming, but distant. His grip on me, though, was steady, possessive. Every time someone looked too long, his hand would slide to the small of my back, fingertips pressing lightly. A silent reminder that I was part of his story now. At our table, I tried to keep up with the conversation. It was all numbers and power and subtext. I smiled when he smiled, nodded when he did. Once I reached for my glass too quickly and nearly spilled it. His hand shot out, steadying mine. Breathe, he murmured, close enough that I felt his breath against my ear. You're doing fine. That simple sentence shouldn't have hit so hard. But the warmth of his voice cut through my nerves, and for a second, the room stopped spinning. Later, when the crowd thinned and we were out on the balcony, I asked quietly, "Why me? You could have picked anyone for this." He looked at me. Really looked at me. And for the first time, there was no smirk. "Because you don't know how to fake it," he said simply. "And that makes it believable." Before I could reply, a photographer appeared in the doorway calling his name. Michael straightened, then turned to me, eyes softening just slightly. "Ready to go back in, pretty boy?" His words made my pulse skip. And when he took my hand again, this time, slower, deliberate, it didn't feel like acting anymore. 2 months later. By the second month, the fake boyfriend act had become routine and exhausting. It started with small things. Early morning coffee deliveries at my apartment. Michael leaning against the counter while I tried to brew something that didn't taste like burnt disappointment. "You call this espresso?" he teased, smirking. But his fingers brushed mine as he took the mug. That touch lingered longer than necessary. Movie nights became a staple, supposedly for research to show I was part of his life. But really, it was just us, alone, in the soft glow of his living room. He'd lean back, arms stretched along the couch, leaving just enough space between us to feel safe, yet close enough for my knee to bump his. Once, during a thunderstorm, the city lights blinking across his floor-to-ceiling windows, the power cut out. We were trapped in darkness, laughing at the absurdity of it. Lightning illuminated his face for a second. Sharp, dangerous, vulnerable all at once. I joked about ghosts to break the tension. He laughed. And then didn't move when the lights came back. Just watched me, green eyes dark, searching. Then came the nights when he opened up, carefully, sparingly. I learned about his mother, how she had tried to protect him from the life he inherited, how he still visited her grave every year. I learned about scars hidden beneath his tailored suits, remnants of battles and mistakes only he understood. I started to forget that I was supposed to be terrified. Evenings blurred into mornings. Walks along the city streets, arms brushing, lingering too long. Shared meals in his penthouse kitchen, the faint scent of expensive cologne mixing with the lingering aroma of garlic and wine. Then came the subtle touches. His hand brushes my back as he leads me through a crowded room. His fingers lightly caught mine under the table, holding for a beat too long. Every time my stomach flipped. And every time I told myself it was just part of the act. But it wasn't. Not entirely. A few months later. By month 4, the pretense had blurred. Tabloids weren't calling me Michael's cover anymore. They called me his. And inside, I didn't mind. It was that night. The gala. Our biggest public appearance yet. That everything changed. We were leaving, the crowd still buzzing inside, when a sleek black car screeched to a stop beside us. Men jumped out, shouting, weapons glinting. One of them grabbed me by the collar, yanking me against the side of the car. "You think he'll save you?" the man sneered. "You're just a pawn." Panic rose like bile. My legs felt like jelly. My chest hammered. Then Michael was there. Silent. Terrifying. Every step precise. Deliberate. And in a few heartbeats, 2 of the men were groaning on the pavement. He turned to the remaining one, voice low and lethal. "Touch him again, and I'll bury you next to your boss." The man didn't wait. He fled. Michael's chest heaved. His suit was torn, his hands shaking slightly, but his gaze never wavered from me. "You okay?" he asked softly, almost gently. Yeah, I stammered, breathless. "I think so." He stepped closer, eyes dark, intense. "You could have been killed." "I'm fine," I said, but my voice was shaky. And then he kissed me. It wasn't gentle, not polite, not "we're pretending." It was desperate, angry, terrified, and real. His hands gripped my shoulders like he couldn't let me go, like he'd been holding back for months and it had finally broken. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against mine. His voice was low, shaky, almost human. I told myself I wouldn't cross that line. But he already had. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't scared anymore. Not of him, not of this life, not of what was happening between us. A few days later, the apartment felt smaller than usual. My chest was tight, my stomach twisting into knots. I couldn't stop replaying that night at the restaurant. The way Ryan had smiled, shrugged, and left me alone with a $1,047 bill that might as well have been a noose. I'd spent hours digging. A few phone calls to my IT friend, a little background check, nothing crazy. Until the receipts showed up. Ryan had been paid. Cold, documented, and deliberate. Someone had wanted me in Michael's orbit. And a single thought made my blood run cold. Was it Michael? I stormed into his penthouse the next night, heels clacking against the marble like gunshots. He was standing by the bar, pouring whiskey. The city lights behind him made him look untouchable. Untouchable and infuriating. "You did this," I said, voice trembling between anger and hurt. "You paid him off." My blind date. My humiliation. It wasn't random. Was it you? Michael turned slowly. His green eyes met mine. Calm, unreadable. But beneath it, a storm I couldn't read. "Noah, I swear I didn't orchestrate any of it. I didn't plan your date, your bill, none of it." I laughed, bitter, broken. "Then why does it feel like you did? Why does it feel like everything in this world is controlled by you?" He took a step forward, the kind that made my knees weak. "I didn't want this to happen to you. I wanted to help you, not hurt you." "You're a liar," I spat, grabbing my coat. My voice cracked as I turned away. "I trusted you. I shouldn't have." And I left, heart pounding, chest tight, unsure if I'd ever see him the same way again. Hours later, the pounding on my door was terrifying. I jumped, my pulse in my throat. When I opened it, I froze. Michael was there. Blood streaked his crisp white shirt, bruises coloring his skin like some dark art, hair matted. But his eyes? They were focused solely on me. Not me in danger. Not me angry. Just me. "You think I'd take a bullet for something I planned?" His voice was low, raw with fury. "You think I'd risk my life to manipulate you?" My chest tightened. He looked human. Vulnerable. Exhausted. But still undeniably dangerous. "Michael," I whispered, unable to look away. He stepped inside, bleeding, shaking slightly. "I came for you, Noah. I don't care about contracts. I don't care about appearances. If someone tries to hurt you, they're going to regret it." I didn't know what to do. Relief, fear, and longing collided. Before I realized it, I was pressing myself against him, desperate, clinging to him. And then our lips met. Not gentle, not polite. Desperate, fiery, dangerous. His hands tangled in my hair, pulling me closer, as if he'd been holding back months of need. When we finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine, breathing hard. "I can't lose you," he murmured. Something in me cracked. I didn't know if it was desire, trust, or fear. Maybe all three. But I knew one thing. This was real. Curiosity, or maybe something darker, fear and desperation, made me tiptoe into the restricted section of Michael's penthouse late that night. The sliding bookcase opened into a small, dimly lit room lined with monitors. Screens flickered with security feeds, meeting logs, and video calls I wasn't supposed to see. I pressed myself against the wall, my pulse hammering in my ears. I shouldn't be here, but I needed to know. And then I heard it. Familiar voices, loyal men, or so I thought, whispering in shadows. "Use him as leverage. He cares about the civilian. Break him, you break the boss. He's perfect for manipulation. If the boss loses control..." My stomach dropped. My fingers dug into my palms. My breath came in short, terrified bursts. They weren't just planning against Michael. They were planning against me. And they weren't even subtle about it. Their confidence was terrifying. They assumed I was helpless, scared, and predictable. I backed up a step and froze. Every fiber in my body screamed to warn Michael. But if I moved too fast, if I made a sound, it would tip them off. For the first time, I realized the full danger I'd stepped into. Michael's world wasn't just glamorous parties and protection. It was betrayal from inside, danger I couldn't even begin to anticipate. I had to warn him. I had to. But how? Every scenario I imagined ended with me failing, or getting someone, Michael, hurt. My heart pounded so hard I was sure they could hear it. And then a cold thought settled in my chest like ice. They planned for me to be that weapon. The next day, I didn't get the chance to warn him. I was walking home the next night, late, the city's neon bleeding into puddles from the drizzle. My phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number, a taunt. "You're about to understand your place." My stomach sank. Before I could react, a van screeched beside me. Hands clamped over my mouth, dragging me inside. The world spun. I struggled, arms flailing, kicking, but the blindfold went over my eyes before I could even register the number of people. The doors slammed shut, the engine roaring, and I was trapped in darkness. The smell of gasoline and leather filling my nostrils. My heart slammed like it wanted to escape my chest. A voice, mocking, cruel, whispered in my ear, "You were never unlucky, pretty boy." You were bait. Fear gripped me, icy and paralyzing. And then pieces started clicking into place. Ryan, the paid-off date, the chaos of my first night. Every coincidence suddenly felt deliberate. I'd been set up to draw Michael into danger, to hurt him through me. Another voice sneered, laughing. "The boss cares too much. If we break you, we break him." My hands struggled against the ropes, nails scraping leather. Panic surged, but amid it all, anger simmered. They assumed I was helpless. They assumed I was afraid enough to betray. But I was not a pawn they could control. Through the gloating, another realization slammed into me like a fist. This is why Michael couldn't let anyone get close for so long. Years ago, he lost someone he loved, someone he couldn't save. That fear, that obsession with control, wasn't arrogance. It was grief. And somehow now I understood. He wouldn't ever let me die. The thought steadied me. If they wanted to use me, they were about to find out that I could fight too. A while later, the ropes dug into my wrists, every movement sending sharp jolts of pain up my arms. My heart pounded like a drum in my ears, and the shadows of the van's interior twisted around me like predators. Every instinct screamed to panic. But panic wouldn't save me. I scanned the van frantically. A phone lay on the floor, its screen dim, ignored by the guards. My fingers trembled as I grabbed it, swiping it just enough to trigger a silent ping to Michael's secure line. A faint pulse of data. Nothing more. Just enough to let him know where I was. Then I noticed a small crack in the ventilation panel. My pen slipped from my pocket, and I started scribbling a quick coded note. Coordinates. Time. A desperate plea disguised as a glitch. Sliding it through the vent, I watched it disappear into the air circulation system. My heart jumped. One wrong move, and they'd realize I was doing something. The guards were distracted, laughing, confident in their dominance. That overconfidence was my weapon. I shifted my weight subtly, kicked a chair into a shadowy corner, creating a loud clatter. One guard jumped, cursing. My fingers found a metal rod lying forgotten. I gripped it, waiting. Adrenaline surged, and for the first time since being kidnapped, I felt a flicker of control. They assumed I was helpless. They assumed I was terrified. But I wasn't. I would fight. I would stall. and if I had to, I would survive. Then came the sound I'd been hoping for. Glass smashing. Michael. The van shook as he moved like a storm unleashed. Black coat flaring behind him, fists and elbows flying in perfect, terrifying arcs. He was faster than anything human should be. A force honed by rage, fear, and love all at once. Noah! His roar cut through. The chaos, the sound vibrating through my chest. I knew he'd come for me. No hesitation, no calculation. Just me. I swung the metal rod at the first guard, who lunged, feeling a sickening crack as he went down. My knuckles stung, blood mixing with adrenaline, but I didn't stop. The van was chaos, screaming, shouting, and I thrived on it. Michael moved with terrifying precision, facing the rival leader. Green eyes glinting with cold fury, his movements lethal, and every action screamed one thing: you don't hurt him. The rival laughed, overconfident. Then Michael slammed him into the van wall with a thud that rattled my bones. You think I'd lose him? You think I can be broken? The words were low, dangerous, a promise and a threat all at once. I fought beside him, every nerve on fire. Together, we became unstoppable, two forces perfectly in sync. By the end, the van was silent but for our heavy breathing. The mole inside Michael's ranks had been exposed. Their treachery lay bare. And for the first time, the world felt ours again. I sank to the floor, bruised and shaking, but alive. Michael knelt beside me, hand brushing my hair from my face, whispering, "You're not just my debt anymore. You're my reason." And in that moment, the chaos, the danger, the fear, all of it didn't matter. Not when he was there. The next morning. The sunlight was harsh, cutting through the blinds and landing across my bruised ribs. Every movement made me wince. Arms, legs, sides. It was a miracle I wasn't completely broken. But then I noticed him. Michael. Sitting at the edge of the bed, one hand brushing my hair from my forehead. Eyes soft for the first time I could remember. No smirk, no intimidation. Just concern. "You're awake," he said, voice low, a tremor beneath the usual calm steel. I tried to sit up, but he pressed a gentle hand to my chest. "Don't move too fast. You've been through a lot." I swallowed hard. "I'm fine, just bruised." His green eyes softened further. "I mean what I said, Noah. You're not my debt anymore," he murmured, almost shyly. "You're my reason." I stared at him, stunned. The man who had terrified me, who had dominated every room he entered, was soft for me. Just for me. My chest swelled with something I couldn't name. Relief? Love? Gratitude? Probably all of it. I reached for his hand, fingers intertwined. "Then maybe I should stick around," I said, grinning despite the soreness. His lips twitched into a teasing smirk. "I'll never let you go, pretty boy." And in that moment, the chaos, the danger, the world, it all faded. The days that followed were strange, peaceful. For the first time in months, maybe years, the chaos wasn't pressing down on us. Michael's world still existed. Threats, rivals, power plays. But inside his apartment, inside our moments, it felt like a sanctuary. We spent entire weekends doing nothing. Cooking together became a ritual. He insisted on making pasta from scratch, flour dusting his hair and the counters, and I laughed at his perfectionism. "You could open a restaurant," I teased, watching him glare mock seriously. He grinned, letting me stir the sauce. "I'd rather run a life with you," he said casually, like it was obvious. My stomach fluttered, and I nearly dropped the spoon. Movie nights were messy. Popcorn spilled, blankets tangled, and he was stealing the best spot on the couch. And yet we'd end up laughing, limbs intertwined, teasing each other endlessly. Sometimes, late at night, we'd sit on the balcony, the city lights stretching below us. He'd hand me my favorite wine, and we'd talk for hours about music, memories, and silly dreams. And then there were the small touches, his fingers brushing mine as he passed, the weight of his hand on my lower back, the quiet way he'd pull me close when the apartment felt too big or too quiet. Every touch, every look, every smile was a reminder. I wasn't just surviving this world. I was living it with him. And the funny, happy moments were just as precious as the intense ones. We'd playfully argue over breakfast orders, race to see who could do laundry faster, and even create a ridiculous Michael-approved playlist I was too scared to complain about. I realized slowly that I had fallen in love with him. Not the dangerous, untouchable mafia boss the world feared, but the man who laughed at my dumb jokes, who held me when nightmares came, who trusted me, and let me trust him in return. A few months later, we returned to the rooftop restaurant where it had all begun. The place that had humiliated me, terrified me, and unknowingly started everything. The city sprawled beneath us, lights sparkling like a promise. We slid into the same booth, but this time I wasn't trembling. This time, there was no fear, no uncertainty, just laughter, quiet conversation, and stolen glances. The waiter slid the check across. Michael leaned back, green eyes twinkling with mischief. "Your turn," he said. I laughed, pulling out his black card, the same card that had saved me, that had changed my life forever. "You started this," I said with a grin. His smirk deepened, leaning closer. "Then I'll never let you end it." I pushed the card toward him, fingers brushing against his. That spark, that thrill, was still there. But it felt warm now, safe, comforting. We sat, hands intertwined, sharing bites of dessert, teasing each other, laughing at the ridiculousness of the world outside our little bubble. Then he leaned closer, and our lips met in a slow, lingering kiss. Not desperate, not rushed, perfect. The city lights blurred behind us, and the night seemed to pause. When we pulled apart, he whispered, green eyes soft and serious, "You're not my debt. You're my choice, my reason, my everything." I smiled, heartful, feeling it in every bruised, battered, happy inch of me. "And you're mine." We stayed there, quiet and close, wrapped in each other and the night, knowing that whatever came next, danger, chaos, life, we'd face it together. Not as fake partners, not as allies in a dangerous game, but as something far rarer and better. As lovers, equals, and home for each other. And for the first time, I believed that love, real, messy, thrilling love, could survive anything. The end. So tell me, was it fate or just one very expensive dinner gone right? Thanks for watching. Subscribe to become part of our Rainbow Force. And consider joining our membership for early access and exclusive content. Stay wholesome.